Good afternoon and welcome to My Left Ear. I am Carrie Freeman, the writer, producer, director of My Left Ear. I like to say that because it's true. I do it all by myself. I have one mentor and he checks in with me from time to time and we go over some things. So want to let you know if you're first visiting or you just come across this. This is a liberal leaning YouTube site and I see something's wrong with my hat. And much more, because my left ear means that I get a lot of psychic information that comes through this side in the form of very clear messages and thoughts. I literally do not hear voices, okay? So I use that, but I also use the runes, the ancient runes, which have served me and served us really well. When I'm not here, doing this, I'm a change agent, meaning I see private clients for therapeutic hypnosis and psychic readings. And sometimes the therapeutic hypnosis and the psychic readings combine because I learn a lot about people doing the hypnosis, and then my psychic stuff kicks. So sometimes there's a double benefit with it. And any information you need about contacting me is below. Feel free. I have a Patreon channel. That information is below. So essentially what I do is I study the news for like pretty much a week. Now sometimes I do 2 a week, but I would say more likely about every 5 days. And I take notes and I take notes and I take notes, and then I disseminate the information and I pick out what I think is especially relevant and interesting. And then you have and then I pull runes, and then you have this, a little show. It is for entertainment purposes only, and it is the 17th of June. And I want to say tomorrow is Father's Day. So any fathers out there, happy Father's Day. I hope you got a lot of love and food and affection. And if you're just a father to a cat or a dog, that's okay. Celebrate with them. Now, I was going to do a Patreon this afternoon, but I discovered that I have a little infection that is not serious. Do not worry, but I got to go to urgent care and get some antibiotics. So Patreon tomorrow. And what I'm going to talk about is, I don't know, something I think is kind of interesting. I've been the victim of maybe 4 scams via the telephone. And some of them were really scary. I'm looking at myself on my phone and there's something wrong with my head. I'm so sorry. So I'm going to talk about these, my experiences with some scams. It might help people. I didn't lose money, but I almost did, okay? My left ear literally saved my butt. Now, one of the scams, my sister-in-law was the victim of the same exact scam. And she almost lost money, but she ran to her bank and blah, 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 blah. So I'm gonna talk about that if you wanna check in. And to watch is $8 a month. A couple of Starbucks there, not even that. Starbucks are so expensive. Last time I had a triple venti cappuccino, I think it was over $6, and I went, that's it. No more of those. I just don't like that Starbucks did it. It's not that I can't afford it. It's just, how dare they? I even had a Starbucks manager agree with me. And today I'm not doing weekly runes. I'm going to do them on Monday, and we'll go from there. I just felt today was like a little too soon. Now, I'm going to talk about 2 really personal things that are just going to take a moment. I want to tell you a story. For some reason, and it could be my ear, I wanted to do a show last Sunday. And I went, that's interesting. I really rarely do that. but I just felt like doing it. So I did an entire show with the runes and everything last Sunday. And on Monday morning, I have this beautiful balcony. It's a second story balcony, and it overlooks, it sounds awful, but it overlooks like a communal alley and a lot of other buildings. And I have a great view. I have a view of the mountains, and I have a view of Universal Studios. So I hear a lot of noise coming from the alley sometimes. But early in the morning, maybe about 8:30, maybe earlier, I hear a man shrieking. I mean, like he was being stabbed. And I ran out, and it subsided for a minute. I came back in, and then it started up again. And the man was screaming, "He's gonna die, he's gonna die, he's gonna die." And it was bone chilling, my friends. So I looked over, and Norman, a neighborhood cat that's like lives right across the alley, who's always around my apartment building, visiting people, very famous guy, Norman, a kind of a rough and tumble alley cat kind of guy, but we all knew him. He was like part of the neighborhood, belonged to a family across the way, and the man was, I couldn't see Norman really, but the man was just crying and crying, and he kept saying, "He's gonna die, he's gonna die." So then I saw one of my neighbors run out and drive away with the man and Norman. So I didn't know exactly what had happened. I later found out that Norman crossed the street and was hit by a really fast car, and his head was crushed, and his eyes were popping out, and he did not survive. So we lost Norman, and it was so unbelievably traumatic. And I had been in talks with a couple of friends about letting Petey out, which I haven't wanted to do, because he's got a lot of energy and he can be a rascal. And everybody thought, well, he needs, to go out, and it's like, he'll get stolen because he stands out like, he just stands out. And I don't know that he knows how to protect himself. I've never seen anything in him that indicates he knows how to take care of himself. So Petey is not going out. Petey is not going to be an outdoor cat. And we're just going to have to deal with it. Now, the second thing, and by the way, I could not have made a video that day. I was completely shattered. It went to my solar plexus, and I ended up just going over to the neighbor who drove the man to the vet. And we just talked. She has 2 cats. And I simply couldn't function last Monday. So I'm better now, I accept what happened. I did run into the gentleman the other day, and we had a chat, and he was calmed down. We talked about it. He seemed to be very, comforted that I came over to talk to him. And so that was that story. That was that story. And had I planned on doing a show on Monday, I wouldn't have been in any condition to do it. All right, so I'm going on to the second personal thing, and then I'm on to the runes and the politics. I'm wearing a hat today. I believe you've seen this hat before. It's my favorite hat. But what I realized is that I've had some hair loss, and it's almost like my hair is taking on some different texture, and the hair loss is really upsetting. It's up here. Now, I'm able to kind of do it, and most people can't tell. I have all these little tricks, but finally the other day I went, oh my God, I think this is because of COVID, and I don't want to color my hair because I don't want to put those chemicals on my scalp right now. I'm also using a laser cap that I've owned for a long time, and I'm using it every day now to try to bring back. So there's quite a bit of gray hair in front. It looks really strange to me. And you might see more hats, all right? And that's the reason. Why is she wearing the hat all the time? That's the reason. So we'll see. I'm not ready, I think, to stop coloring my hair and going gray. I think a lot of women look fantastic. I'm not sure I would. So that's that. Now we're gonna get on with, I've got a lot of runes. I'm just gonna start with some runes. So everybody knows, I believe, who Judge Eileen Cannon is. She was, she presided over, I don't know which thing it was with Trump. And she, right when JackSmith's started, and she made terrible calls that she shouldn't have made, because I listened to all these great attorneys. And generally, legal people were appalled at what she did. And what she did was try to protect Donald Trump, and said that he was special and he should be held to a different, level, and all this kind of thing. Jack Smith went, I think, to a Circuit Court of Appeals, or the 11th, and had complaints. They were so legitimate that that circuit court shut her down, okay? And she got a very bad reputation. Well, she practices in Florida. And now she's in charge of the most serious trial that we've ever seen. First time indictment of a president of the United States. So this is a bit of a nightmare. I'm told that she got chosen because there's almost like a lotto, and it appears that she wasn't purposely placed there, but there she is, and with very little experience and a big penchant. She's a big MAGA, all right? And she's a member of the Federalist Society, which is all just radical right, Christian, with mega money. All right, so here's the runes. Is Judge Cannon being guided by members of the Federalist Society? Because she has so little experience with this kind of procedure that I'm thinking she's got to have a mentor or something from the Federalist Society. So here's what I got. I got the rune of strength in reverse. And it tells us, without ears to hear and eyes to see, you may fail to take advantage of the moment. Could result in a lost opportunity, Eileen, or a weakening of your position, Eileen, 45. So alerting you to minor failures, which means she's going to F up. And for those who are unconscious, this experience could provide a hard jolt, okay? Then I got journey reversed. It puts you on notice to be attentive to personal relationships, like the Federalist Society. Ruptures are more likely than reconciliations, and desired outcomes may elude you, Eileen, and 45. And then the last one is a doozy. I got disruption. Change, freedom, liberation. Speaks of the psyche's need to break free from constricting identification. The events happening are out of your control. This rune is the great awakener. The power may be such as to rip away the fabric of what you previously knew. So in old-fashioned terms, it sounds like she might get another whooping. Now, via Truth Social, which is 45's radical site, which I think is tanking, he's been writing rants that get onto Twitter, but he's not a member of Twitter. And they're all in caps because it shows how freaked out he is. So he wrote something this past week about let's just see what Judge Cannon will handle this. And she's simply an inexperienced member of the Federalist Society, and he thinks he has Eileen in his pocket. And in a way he does, because the original thing was he should be held to a different standard. I mean, she actually said that. He should be held to a different standard. I don't think so. But he kind of thinks he has her in his pocket, because he says, let's just see what Judge Cannon says. All right. Now we go on to Jack Smith, because he's the guy, he's the smartest guy in the room, and he knows what he's doing better than anybody. I have, by the way, 100% faith in him. So my question, does Jack Smith have secrets about Bedminster? Because there's a rumor that he might pull the plug on Florida and move it to Bedminster. I don't know the details about that being entirely possible, but everybody's going to be watching this. And he did a brilliant thing. I'm so excited to share it with you, and it's just like a few moments away. Jack did. So the question, does Jack Smith have secrets regarding Bedminster? So the first rune is partnership, which is a big X. It's a gift. A partnership is involved. And the first thing that came to my left ear was an informant. That would be a partner. It is the gift of freedom that's at hand. And nailing 45 is the gift. Then I got disruption, change, freedom, liberation, speaks of the psyche's need to break free from constricting identification, and he wants to break free. The events are out of his control. It is the great awakener, although he is incapable of an awakening. He really is. And it says the power may be such as to rip away the fabric of what you previously knew, Donald. And then the last rune in this is signals reversed. It tells us, you may be concerned over what appears to be failed communication or lack of clarity. You may feel inhibited from accepting what is offered. Now that's an interesting line. It's possible, there's a lot of rumors about people thinking that Trump's going to try to get a deal and somehow squirm out of this. He's not being offered something. It's hard to know. You may feel inhibited from accepting what is offered. This moment is for cleansing out the old. And if there's an offer, you may feel hesitant to accept an offer. Bedminster might be a weaker case. We've heard less and less. My left ear tells us that Jack Smith has inside information about Bedminster, and he's not sharing it yet. This is a man who plays the cards and holds them close. You gotta, what's that, Kenny? About the dealer, the gambler, it's the song, and you hold him close. Know when to hold him, know when to, all right, so that said, the process is still timely. So we have to wait on what's going on Bedminster. There is this rumor, I've mentioned it, that Jack may have a way of taking this case out of Florida. Because as I say, Jack has moves like Jagger. He really does. He's phenomenal. The guy broke his pelvis when he left The Hague because he's a triathlete, and within 6 weeks he was in the United States working. He's a tough guy. So this is the really interesting part, and boy, it tells us how brilliant and methodical Jack Smith is. He's like one step ahead. All right. According to the Times, and they don't say whether it's the New York Times, the LA, I think it's New York. Smith is playing a long game. That's a quote. Or more appropriate in this case, a short game. And I'll tell you why they're calling it a short game. Trump's defense, as we all know, tries to obstruct and delay with a capital D. It's famous. That's what he does. And he probably learned it from the criminal lawyer, Roy Cohn, who was also a psychopath. And it would delay this trial with the documents, and it would cause it to bump up against the 24 general election. But Jack is exceptional. And here it is. And I'm quoting from the Times. Jack Smith has his eye trained solely on pulling off a headshot, because there were no headshots taken in Florida at his arraignment. And that was methodical, by the way. That was up to the prosecution, I'm pretty sure, because he didn't have his passport taken. He was given no travel restrictions. He was just left to go feral. And frankly, it left a lot of us scratching our heads, including yours truly, like, what's he doing? What's going on? So it's explained now. This is so, I'm so excited because this is so bleeping clever. Jack Smith did not object to anything, and he wants to give Trump his freedoms, because with the freedoms, Trump's attorneys cannot come back and appeal his passport, and appeal his unfair treatment, and appeal his gag order. All of that's been taken away. And that's the reason, to make the trial move faster. So he's pulled the power away from Trump's attorneys. And man, oh man, I love this guy. Just because I was curious, I asked a runes question, and I got one rune, and I needed not to pull any more runes. It was like everything, all right? So you're gonna get a kick out of this. I asked, will the DOJ cut a deal with 45? Now, my left ear has doubted that. I don't think so. I pulled the rune called Stand Still. And it says, the winter of the spiritual life is upon you, 45. You find yourself entangled in a situation to whose implications you are blind. Positive accomplishment is unlikely now, and there is a freeze on useful activity. So the DOJ cutting a deal, which could be approached by Trump's lawyers, to me, to my left ear, is a hard no. I didn't need to pull any more runes on this. Sometimes it's like so clear. All right, so that one was clear. Now I'm going to move on to my least favorite person on the planet, who I call Rhonda DeNazzi. His numbers are cratering. They're going down, down, down. They're tanking. This thrills me because he actually, in his own way, is more dangerous than Trump. He knows how to circumvent the system, and he does it, and some of it I think is illegal. You know, I did pull about, is he going to get nailed for crimes? And already this is happening. So I'm very excited about that. So let me just give you a sample if you didn't see it. He was being interviewed. Rhonda DeNazzi was being interviewed, and he actually said, this is a quote, I would have been one of Jesus's disciples. And my left ear said, that's cray cray. Cray cray. It's grandiose, it's delusional, and it goes to Ron's mental health. So I can't warn people enough. I'm very vocal on Twitter about DeSantis. A lot of people agree with me. I'm not by myself. But David Jolly, who was a congressman, who's very well spoken. I don't know if he's still a Republican or he left, but he's on MSNBC. He's very sort of kind of a silver fox. Seems like a nice man, very down to earth. He said, I wrote it down, jumped out of bed and wrote it down. DeSantis is remarkably unlikable, and people are finding it because he's nasty and he doesn't have rapport with people. And I don't know if you've seen any that, if anybody's on Twitter, but there's a lot of photos of Ron on this campaign trail, and there's numerous where, I'm not going to do it because it's so gross, but his mouth is like wide open, as if he was at the dentist, and the dentist said, okay, open wider, but he's looking at people, and I think he thinks he's smiling, or he's being amusing, or he's trying to laugh. But he's scaring babies because he did it to a baby like this to her father. And it's just stinking weird. It's just stinking weird. Now I'm going to get on to the little sound bites, that I do, the little this, because we're coming to the end. I don't know if you know this, but 45, I really don't say his name too much, but Trump wants a public apology from Jack Smith, and he wants Jack to return all his boxes. And he expects all charges to be dropped. All right, so just like chew on that a little bit. Judge Cannon, the inexperienced judge who was chosen by the Federalist Society, has really not written any legal papers. And this is uncommon. Attorneys and judges, they write opinion pieces, and they're supposed to be very good writers. Most attorneys are very good writers. Even her orders last week about security clearances for lawyers, because Trump's lawyers have to be able to see those documents, and unless they get clearance, they can't see them. So they haven't seen them yet. So that's the reason for it. So there's a legitimate reason for this this clearance, this security clearance. And all my favorite attorneys, Joyce Vance, Andrew Weissman, on, has said just a very poorly written order. They were like kind of shocked. Nothing wrong with the order, but it was very poorly written. So it shows you how green she is. And one very, very experienced attorney on Twitter said, oh yeah, she's written recipes and flamenco stories. And actually, it's kind of true. My left ear sees and feels a very juvenile woman who maybe got trapped in adolescence, because there's a picture of her that I cannot prove, but everybody says it's her, at some kind of MAGA event with another female, and she's wearing some crazy hat, and her face is all painted, and it's all MAGAville. So it said, you know what? She's really not a developed human being. She's very young. All right, so I'm going to move on. This is horrific, but in a way I'm not worried, and I'll tell you why I'm not worried. Cannon has the power as this judge, if she remains the judge on the documents case, because she's not going to recuse, and the Federalist Society doesn't want her to recuse, and she may even have gotten some money. I think that should be checked out, because the Federalist Society has billions, and there might be a little payoff here, but that's allegedly, all right? She has the power. Let's say they go through this whole trial. She doesn't get bumped. He doesn't, airplane. Jack Smith doesn't move. And now the jury comes back guilty, 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 guilty on all these charges. She actually has the power to reverse the jury's decision and kind of make it go away. 45 could get a little slap, And Smith cannot appeal this. So it's pretty much a nightmare. The only thing that the whole world is going to be watching her. So she's now caught. This is why she should recuse. She's going to be caught between the agenda of the GOP and the Federalist Society. It's unconscionable, but there it is. One of the reasons I'm not worried, and Jack's not worried, is that there's the Georgia case and there's January 6th, okay? And what I wrote here, I'm reading, is my left ear said, no matter, there are too many cases stacking up, and Georgia will be a wow. Georgia will be huge, okay? And if you think Jack Smith is tough, so is Fani Willis. Tough and smart and wouldn't give up, all right? I counted how many presidential candidates we have to date. And what we have is 10. But I think there's going to be a few more. I think people are thinking about it. It's crazy. More are coming, but there's 10. And they all seem pretty awful to me. But of course they would. I'm a Democrat. Now, have you seen this on the news or any of the shows where there's a movie that was out with Russell Crowe a long time ago called A Beautiful Mind? I think it got, Oscars and all kinds of, and he may have gotten an Oscar for it. I didn't do that much research. And it's the true story of a genius mathematician named John Forbes Nash, who was a Nobel laureate, but he was also schizophrenic. And he hoarded and he obsessed. And there's a scene in the movie where FBI or somebody opens the door to his office and his wife walks in, and the office is like a hoarding environment. And there are like thousands of Post-its and notes all over the walls. And it's clearly the office of a very disturbed mind. So the White House aides have nicknamed 45 like these are the boxes that are his beautiful mind boxes. All joking about this. And can you imagine that about it? And it is also reported through credible sources that Trump would say about the boxes, they're mine. They're my boxes. And if somebody changed a paper, he knew. Even though he has ADD and all kinds of, he could look inside a box and know that someone had rifled through something. He was obsessed. And the boxes, some of them, because there's so many, they traveled with him like a blankie. You take your child on a plane, they bring a blankie. They go to the babysitter's house, they take a blankie. That's how they feel safe. Well, strangely, aside from money, because money's a factor, the boxes gave him self-esteem. It's kind of like, I am still the president. I have these boxes. Because his office in New York is filled with mementos from very famous people, and he likes to show off, Shaquille O'Neal's shoes and this trophy and this letter from somebody. So this is the depth of the shallowness, the insecurity, the suffering of Donald Trump. So this boxes thing is twofold. He wanted to feel better about himself. He wanted to hold on to some element of the presidency and also make money. It's a source of power for him, and I have no doubt he's made money. And I think they'll find out. They'll find out. So it's like a childlike need for safety and leverage. He felt more presidential. And you've seen him. He says, he had every right. All these lies. Like they planted the papers. There's like hundreds of bucks, but they planted them at Mar-a-Lago. No, they didn't. He took them. He stole them. After the arraignment in Florida, where Trump scowled and squirmed and like that, it is reported that Jack Smith was seated in a way where he could just stare at him. And the report is that he stared at him nonstop. Jack Smith did not look at anybody else or anything else. He just stared bullets into Trump thinking maybe he could catch his eye, but Trump would not look at him, would not look at him walking out. But the minute he got out, he started to call Jack deranged and all this crap. But he went with his motorcade to a local Cuban restaurant called Versailles. And there were all these MAGAs there, and his protection and his fans. And a reporter asked him how he would feel about going to jail, and she got kicked out. And I'm glad she didn't get hurt, because that kind of question with a crowd like that in a restaurant, that could have gotten her physically hurt. Wow, a lot of guts, that woman. 45 makes this huge announcement. Lunch for everyone here on me. And he left and did not pay. It's just a microcosm story that sums up everything about him. But no matter, if the MAGAs were caught with the check, they probably said, oh, he forgot. He meant it, but he forgot, because he can do no wrong. And then I'm gonna end these tidbits on a kind of a good note, which is Governor Gavin Newsom is my governor here in California. And he is emerging now as a big player, and he's nobody's fool. Nobody's fool. I think there's a chance he may consider a presidential run in 28. I don't think he'll do it now. I think he's too smart to do it now in this climate, because he's remarkably articulate and fast. I mean, he just has these answers and details. I mean, I wouldn't want to debate him. He's powerful. He has a great mind. And I like his policies. I mean, I feel safer in California because of Gavin Newsom. And he loves this state, and he's very protective. Well, he hates Ron DeSantis for good reason. And they're really like that. And Ron DeSantis flew migrants to Sacramento, California, the capital, and dumped them on the steps of the Capitol. He's getting sued for that, trafficking migrants, and he's being investigated for moving $80 million of campaign finance, illegal. It's being investigated. So campaign finance crimes, trafficking migrants, and Gavin said, I'll debate that guy. I'll debate him without a teleprompter or notes. Bring it on. And he could. Okay, here we go. We're at the end now. This is a pretty long show. Good evidence is just really simple. I have clients that think it's very funny that I talk about things that happen in Trader Joe's or the grocery store. And I don't mind. It is kind of quirky. But I do have these experiences. So I went to my Trader Joe's yesterday, got like 3 things or 2 things. And they changed the configuration of the checkout aisles. They're in like so always knew where to stand, but then I'm like, what? It was the express aisle. And so I said something to the woman. I said, can you believe it? They changed. She goes, I know. And I said, I'm really confused. And so we started chatting, and she says to me, you go in front of me. And I went, no, I hardly have anything. She goes, you've got 1 thing. I said, actually I have 2. And she goes, no, that's fine. And I said, okay, because she didn't have much either. She was just really nice. So we continued talking, and I said to her, I do this a lot myself. I let people in. She goes, yeah, of course. We gotta go out there and be nice. And she was just my kind of person. And we really got into a talk, and it was very clear she was a Democrat, because something about we need a little kindness on the street. I said, we see a lot of bad news. She goes, oh, my husband sends me stuff. I can't look at it. It's too upsetting. And so I said to her, because it was such a nice report. She was such a neat lady. I said to her, you know, during the quarantine, I started a YouTube channel to be creative and to keep my mind working and, you know, just shake myself up a little bit. But I'm still doing it almost 3 years later because people have told me that they feel better after they watch my videos. And I don't set out to do that. I'm just being me. And she said, that is wonderful. Now, it wasn't about me selling my website. I didn't give her a card or anything. And she said, I'm staying away from the news. So I hear people really well. It was a beautiful experience. We just kind of blessed each other. I said, you know what? Bless you. This was so nice. And it was so warm. And that's a good evidence moment. That's simple. Sorry if you wanted more, but just a little lovely. And here's my quote. One quote today, because I'm running over. Albert Einstein. I've got two favorite quotes. This is one of them, and I forgot about it. He said, nothing changes until something moves. That's it. That's the quote. Nothing changes until something moves. And what I've always said about this is move one thing. If things are not working, if there's just move one thing. Change one thing, do one thing differently. I really believe in that, because then the dominoes kind of follow from that moment of courage. And for myself, and this has nothing to do with the channel. I'm not going away with my channels. But I'm taking kind of like a 2-month time out for my health, for my writing, for personal matters. So I'm kind of shutting down my social life, not going to be on the phone a lot, and I'm excited about it. So that's the one thing. I'm moving. And here we go. That's the end of it. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to do Patreon. I'm going to do weekly runes on Monday. This last week was kind of brutal, I thought. But that's okay. We're going to have some difficult moments. So let's keep the faith. Let's stay focused and make peace, make good memories, and be kind on the streets. Okay, guys. Have a good week. Have a good week. Bye-bye. See you soon.